Welcome to Checks and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair, and this week we've got an absolute banger. It's the wealth principle that you need to know.
So, Michael, we're about 80 episodes deep in Checks and Balances. Spoken about budgeting, KiwiSaver, mortgages, insurance. Matt's even come on and rambled about the difference between a look-through company and a trust. Apparently somebody watched that. This episode, they're all our children. We think they're all special. I think this one could and will change your life.
Yeah, what we're going to talk about today is the wealth principle around household income and cash flow and what you can do to maybe jump up a household.
Yeah, so when people come and talk to me around a financial plan, usually they'll say the same thing in a different way. They want financial freedom. They go, hey, James, I'm working for the man. Yeah. I'm grinding. I'm slaving away. I don't want to be dependent on my income forever. What do I need to do to go from a period where I'm getting a salary and I'm maintaining my lifestyle to I have income that's paying me and I get to choose how I spend my time?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're looking at these plans and building them, we go, well, hey, you're probably not the first person in the world that's been wealthy. What do? We look out in the market. We see how wealthy people act, how they spend their cash flow, how their household operates, and we replicate it and we apply what we can to your situation.
So the question is, wealthy people, how do they spend their money? How do they spend their time? So we're going to talk about three different, obviously everyone wants to be the wealthy household. So we're going to talk about three different households today and how they spend their money. We might even have a couple of little infographics for you during it. So we're going to have poor households, rich households, and wealthy households. You go, 2 and 3 don't sound too bad. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we start on this though, it's probably really important to point out that both James and I are pretty fortunate start in life. We probably didn't fall into the poor household category. But not everyone gets to choose their starting point. For some people in a poor household, yeah, true. For people in a poor household, sometimes there isn't a lot that you can do in terms of growing your wealth because the income just isn't there. And we will touch on that a little bit, but we do acknowledge that the cost of everything is going up, and for some people, it's just not going to be an option.
So let's bring up the first graph and talk about poorer households. We'll bring that up on the screen. So firstly, you will see income coming through. You'll see a very thick black line, which is going towards expenses. A lot more going there, Mike, than the other two spots.
Yeah, and those expenses, we call those the four walls. So that's your rent, utilities, power, phone, internet, fuel, food, all of this sort of stuff. Stuff that, I can't decrease the cost of my food. I can't eat less to be wealthier later. I've got to eat.
That next line, in addition to expenses, is going towards liabilities. Now, it's not maybe a mortgage or a business loan, which is getting you ahead. It's going towards maybe a car loan. You've got kids and you're going to spend $30,000 on a car loan. Fortunately, car loans, Mike, the average car loan in the US, not the same as New Zealand, but $640, up 15% last year. When you have those kind of debts, though, as you can see, it boomerangs back around and adds to your expenses, which essentially makes that expense line thicker.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is, again, important to note that not all of this debt is completely bad. Sometimes it is a necessity here, and you do need to have this debt. If you don't have a car, you can't really get around. But what that does, like James said, it adds to that expense list. It means that all of your cash flow is used and those vital expenses that you can't skip, you can't adjust, you can't do anything like that. You'll see at the top of the graph that dollar line heading out towards the assets and a stop sign there. There's no money left to put into assets that are going to grow your wealth over the long term. That means that, hey, the balance sheet isn't going anywhere and that net worth, it's not increasing.
That guy is not looking happy in his boat. This is a really tough situation, and we're not going to bang on about, hey, you should do all of these things. Really, the only thing I guess we'd comment on is if there is a way in your situation, if you classify yourself as a poor household, to increase the income, that is a way that maybe you can start putting some money towards assets, and obviously being cautious around the liabilities and making sure they're liabilities that you need.
Absolutely. So we've covered off the poor household. Now, what we really want to touch on here is the difference between a rich household and a wealthy household. This is where a lot of our customers sit. James, you didn't want me to bring up that I'm potentially buying a batch next week on the podcast, but I will anyway. That is a classic rich household behavior, because that batch, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's property, it's an investment, but hey, is that the smartest thing that I should be doing?
Well, I've told you like 3 times in the last week it's not. The question is, it's the wrong thing. Are you still going to do it?
It's a good deal.
So the difference as a starting point is around income between poor and rich, obviously. So maybe you've gone from earning minimum wage or very little income in the poor household. Your income might be for the household 80 to 100, maybe 150, 200. So there's more income coming in, which maybe means that you can be a little bit, I guess you've got the option of how you spend your money a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see there we've still got those 2 lines coming in. We have the same 4 walls. The types of expenses there don't really change too much. It's still food, utilities, all of this sort of stuff. But what you'll also see is a couple of other things in there around on the liability side. So you've got the home mortgage. Maybe you've got a batch or a vacation home. A boat, RV, all of these sorts of things. Some of the fun stuff that makes life a little bit easier or a little bit nicer. So there is a proportion that is going to that as well. However, there is still no money going to the assets that grow your wealth over time.
Yeah, which once again, if you look at that net worth, the person's still battling in his boat. There is a Warren Buffett quote, which I will potentially butcher, but the saying is, which coming to the asset line, is if you're not making money in your sleep, you'll be working for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and James sort of outlined a couple of income levels that maybe you're at a rich household earlier. James, you and I both know we have customers who are rich households who I'd say the household income is 300 plus.
Yeah, I think the concept rich here is correct. So these people might have kids going to private schools. There may be a holiday home like you alluded to, but the wheels are chugging, right? The income's coming in, things are still moving along. If the music ever stops, these guys are screwed. So it's about, you've got all of these expenses, you've got all of these things going on, but there's nothing going on which is trying to replace your income over time and creating some sort of passive income.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a poor household, that's a rich household. Now, let's look at a wealthy household and then things that we can do or things that we can adjust to get us to that point.
So a really important thing to touch on here is the rich and the wealthy household might have the same income level. It is possible the wealthy household has less income coming through than the rich household. So the first piece is you see the income coming in and the thickness of the lines look dramatically different. So expenses, they're being cautious of their lifestyle. Are they living beyond their means? What is their home? What are their entertainment costs, etc. Then in terms of liabilities, Mike, there's nothing going towards liabilities really. It's all first focused on assets. So the concept of being wealthy is not about keeping up with the Joneses, thinking about what's in front of you. It's about thinking about where can I put my money? Where can I invest my money to replace my income over time? So I choose how to spend my time.
Yeah, you'll also notice in that assets box that there is more than one type of asset. You've got an income asset in there, and you've got, in this scenario, a property asset as well. Having a diversified investment portfolio is a strategy that we love. We absolutely preach it a lot. And it's something that over time will absolutely pay dividends in terms of growing your wealth.
Yeah, so a lot of your income in this scenario might be going towards property, it might be going to shares, you might have a business, which there might be some debt associated, but also it's providing you with an income stream over time. Now, time is one of your biggest assets. If you have an investment property and you buy it right now, spoiler alert, you're not getting a passive income straight away. It's a bit of a grind. The more time you're in the game, the better. However, over time, you'll start to get a bit of a passive income, which will slowly become a high percentage of your household income. When that income grows, you can see it kind of switches back around in the graph, comes into passive income, and then you can have your toys. Then you can look at the cars, you can look at we've even got yachts in here, vacation homes. When you've got that income coming in, and Mike, this might be a lesson for you as well, that your passive income is paying for these toys and these enjoyments opposed to getting them earlier in the day when you don't have that passive income coming through.
Absolutely. So those are the three different households. Now, we sort of talked about, ways that, things you could do to sort of jump households and change your situation, that sort of thing. James, let's say you were my financial advisor, and let's say I was going to buy a batch in, let's say hypothetically, Whangarei Heads next week. What is a really simple piece of advice that you would potentially give to me that maybe would change my household there from a rich to a wealthy household?
The way I think about holiday homes is it's essentially just a bigger mortgage on your own home. It's just throwing in more unproductive debt, which you have to pay off before you get, you're trying to just break even by paying off the debt. One really thing I like about wealthy households is, so this is a stat around self-made millionaires. So there was 233 self-made millionaires who completed the survey. 65% of those people had 3 or more income streams coming through. 45% had 4 or more. 39% had 5 or more. So Mike, the batch, you might go, I'm going to rent it out on Airbnb once a week. Doesn't count, doesn't do anything.
Yep.
We need to be focusing on income first, creating more income streams to get the household income, so you've got choices in how you spend your time in the future. Otherwise, you will always be attached to your job and you will never get ahead.
Absolutely. So something really simple like that is, don't buy a batch, maybe buy an investment property, maybe put it in an income generating asset, is a really easy way that you could try and change your household and upgrade a little bit.
So there are lots of people out there who are rich, who are living the lifestyle of someone who is wealthy, but they cannot stop the music. Think about, firstly, a financial plan, how a good financial plan can help you go from a rich household to a wealthy household with a really good plan. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining. Please make sure to subscribe, give us a review. We'll catch you next week.
Cheers.